Thank you. All right, so I am Jackie Werner. I am the Scholarly Communications and Research Librarian. And today I'm going to be talking about research and author rights. And this will include such topics as who owns the copyright to your paper after you publish it, what's open access, and how do you avoid predatory open access journals. All right, so first thing I'm going to be going over is ORCID. And how many of you guys have an ORCID account? All right.
Yay.
Many of you do.
The big reaction.
So what ORCID is a persistent author identifier. Basically, it's just an official number that's assigned to you as a researcher. And it takes about 5 minutes to sign up for it. And then it'll just be attached to you through all of your scholarly works. The reason this is really useful, first of all, if you want to, you can put all of your publications into your ORCID website and just have it as a nice free website showcasing all your research. Second thing you could do, a lot of scholarly journals are now requiring you to use your ORCID ID when you're submitting a paper. And third, this is an actual faculty member that I worked with in a previous job. I searched on Scopus for John Smith and got 690 author results. An ORCID ID gives you an actual way to differentiate yourself from 689 other John Smiths, which, especially since a lot of papers you're only going to be using your first initial, it's very, very useful to have an ORCID ID so you can keep yourself separated out. And for those of you who haven't signed up, there's a handout back there. And
it's free.
Yeah, it's free, and it literally takes 5 minutes. You can add more if you feel like it, but you don't have to. All right, so let's go on to author rights. And author rights is usually synonymous with copyright. So when you publish an article, who has copyright for your work? Whenever you create anything, you automatically have the copyright. Since I think the 80s, 70s, 80s, you don't have to actually apply for copyright, you just automatically have it. However, when you publish an article, you will often be signing away your copyright to the publisher. So here I have 2 different articles, both published by Dr. Zhang. And this first one is published in BMC Medical Genetics. And as you can see from the information here, the copyright is the author's, so who originally had the copyright. This is an article published in Cancer Letters, and here the copyright belongs to Elsevier, all rights reserved. So what does this actually mean? It really depends on the agreement that you sign. But some of the things that could happen, only the copyright holder can make copies of the work. So if you want to pass out copies to your class, or you're presenting at a conference, want to pass out copies, that's not quite legal. Only the copyright holder can publicly display the work. Only the copyright holder can distribute copies of the work. Which means a lot of those papers you see on ResearchGate are really not supposed to be there. That's illegal. And this is a really extreme case, but in some cases only the copyright holder can make derivative works, aka build off your own research. Basically, in some, only the copyright holder can control how the work is used. So when you want to publish a paper, it's a very good idea to know your rights. First place you could go is a site called Sherpa Romeo, and that's a collection of publisher copyright policies, and also how you're allowed to archive your work, even if they have the copyright to it. So here's just a screenshot of what Sherpa Romeo looks like. And here I searched for cancer letters, which is that Elsevier journal that we looked at. And I'll go over what the preprints and postprints are and what the archiving is. But what you're interested in is copyright here. So there are a lot of links down here, and that just tells you what their different copyright policies are. And they're going to be different for open access articles, which again, I'll go into more detail later. Another thing you want to check out is publisher websites. So here's a screenshot from the publisher Sage, and it just tells you what the actual copyright agreement is. The author retains copyright of the work, but grants Sage the sole and exclusive right and license to publish for the full legal term of copyright. So usually you're going to find these links on Sherpa Romeo, and also if you just search around the publisher website or the journal website. And they're basically going to be in different places on every website, so you can just contact me if you can't find it. So one thing you can do, if you don't approve of the copyright agreement when you're publishing in a paper, you can actually negotiate for it. Here I have the URL of a site called the Spark Open Access Author Addendum. Sorry, not actually open access, Spark Author Addendum. And what this is actually a legal document that you can send to a publisher to say, I want to retain copyright in my work. Or, depending on what exactly you want, it can just be like, I want to retain the right to distribute my work, build on my work, etc. And if you go to sparkopen.org, there's a lot of information on what's in this author addendum, and also just advice on negotiating. Another thing you'll usually want to do is keep your preprint and postprint. So let me go back here to the Sherpa Romeo. And you'll notice that for cancer letters, it says author can archive preprint and postprint. Now, almost every journal actually allows you to archive some version of the article, even ones where they have copyright, even when the article is not open access. However, most of them don't allow you to archive the actual publisher version, which is just the PDF of an article you see. A lot of times, you can archive the postprint version. And here's what the postprint version looks like. Basically what it is it's just the text of the article before it's formatted for the published version. This is after it's gone through peer review. The preprint version is before it's gone through peer review. And for faculty members here, I'll email anyone who's first author and has published, and look up if you're allowed to publish the postprint on our digital commons. And this also applies to posting, say, on your own website. So if you want to have a free version of your article available, then make sure to keep multiple versions of your paper, not just the final PDF. And if you're interested in this and have no idea what requires a preprint or postprint, just talk to me, email me or the library, or they'll forward it to me, and I'll help you out. The other thing you could do is consider publishing open access, which goes into the next section. So, what is open access publishing? An open access journal is a journal that makes everything available, all the scholarly research available for free for everyone. The author almost always retains copyright, and open access journals are generally comparable to non-open journals, meaning that many of them go through peer review, just like print journals, and they all have different, basically different metrics on how often they're cited, how good they are. And some open access journals are like ranked way high up there, just as the traditional journals that have been available for years. The difference for them is that many require author fees to publish, basically because something has to be paid somewhere, because nobody's subscribing to the journal. So they'll require the author to pay to publish in these journals. Now, this does not mean that it's a predatory journal, that it's not a good journal if it's requiring author fees. This is something where you basically have to kind of weigh the author fee against your desire to have the work open. Now, the library does pay author fees for several journals, which I will show off later in this presentation. And so what's the downside to open access journals? That is predatory journals. So predatory journals are journals that are designed to scam money from scholars by publishing in journals that are not academically sound. For some examples are journals that claim they provide peer review and don't actually. Journals that have no assurance of quality, so posting in them is basically equivalent to just like tweeting it as to how useful it'll be to your career. And even journals that have no guarantee of existing in a few months. And very recently, as in April 3rd, the publishing group Omics International has been ordered by a U.S. federal judge to pay $50 million for deceiving authors. And as the second paragraph says, because it's a U.S. judgment and Omics is based in India, it's not clear this will actually do anything. But people are paying attention to deceptive or predatory publishers. Now the question is, how do you actually avoid these? All open access journals are definitely not predatory, but since it's a lot easier to make an online journal for free, there are a good number of predatory journals out there. So first thing you want to do is do some research. And all of this, you can always ask us at the library if you're confused or don't have any time for this, and we'll look up anything for you. So this is the Directory of Open Access Journals, or the DOAJ. And this is just a list of open access journals that are verified as legit, and it has a lot of information about them. So here we have just a selection of journals here, and this is browsing as infection and parasitic disease journals. This is run by volunteers, so bad predatory journals sometimes slip through, and good journals might pass into new management who basically use the name just for predatory journals. The second place you could go is Scopus. So Scopus just has lists of sources, and they give you information about open access journals. You could search for a specific journal, or just for open access journals in a field, and then they give you metrics. Here we have the SciMago journal rank by year. Scopus has a lot of different metrics that basically you can look into Scopus and see the actual and see what they actually mean, but basically they all measure slightly different things: citation rates in the discipline, or weighted citation rates in the discipline, and you can compare two journals. So here we have Public Library Science 1, PLOS One, versus the Annals of Medicine, which is a non-open access journal. And here you can see that, compare the two journal regs. So if you're curious if a journal is predatory, see if it's listed in Scopus. Outright predatory ones usually won't be. And if you want to know if it's good, check out some of the different citation metrics and compare them to journals that you're familiar with. All right, and this is actually a useful research source. If you Google journal name and predatory, or the publisher name and predatory, you can see if other people, usually authors, researchers, or librarians, who have looked into this journal and seen if it's actually predatory. So, once again, this is not always experts, so take it with a grain of salt. But if you see multiple posts talking about how something is predatory, this one, for instance, is actually listed in Wikipedia as predatory. But then this one has an actual paper published that's published in PubMed Central that talks about how it's predatory. So usually you're not going to get something quite so official as an article in PubMed Central about how bad it is. But often you could just take a look and see what other researchers have said about it. And the one thing you could do is stick to journals where the library has memberships with them. So these are journals that are verified to not be predatory journals, and many of these have very good citation metrics. And most importantly, the library pays the author fees for these. So these are really, really recommended places to start if you're interested in publishing open access. So this is Biomed Central, which has a lot of journals that go into some like pretty narrow specialties. So this is a great place to start. PLOS One is a general journal, something more along the lines of science or nature. And BMG Case Reports is we just got membership with them. I think it's last month. Mm-hmm. And they are, as it says, case reports. So also if you're a resident or working with residents, BMJ Case Reports may be a very good place to send them.
Jackie, one caveat. You have to use your PCOM email address. So if you're going to publish and you expect the library to pay, you have to have a valid email.
Yes. And for BMs, in case we didn't pick that up, you have to have a PCOM email address when you're submitting to these journals. Also, for BMJ Case Reports, contact PJ or Sky, or just email library@pcom.edu, and we'll tell you the process for that. For BMC and PLOS One, basically just submit as normal and use your PCOM email address, and then we'll get the notification. All right, now we'll go through some red flags. So you've gone through all of this, and it's a brand new journal, so it's so you're not sure about it, or you just want to keep an eye out for predatory journals. So these are some examples of things to look out for when you're trying to figure out if an open access journal is predatory or not. First off, the peer review process. Excuse me. So the journal, when you're looking at a journal website, it should include information on the peer review process. And here, this is a journal called Cancer Epidemiology, and I'm going to show you an image of all the description of the peer review process on the website. That's it. All it explains about the process is it says it's peer reviewed. So here is a better example, the Journal of Cancer Epidemiology. And all these good and bad examples are open access journals. And I'll show you, you can probably tell which ones are predatory by the end. So this one, here's a screenshot of part of the description of the peer review process. It tells you exactly what they're doing and explains what's going on. Next, unsolicited emails. So basically, if somebody is emailing you saying that they really want your article, or they really want you to present at a conference in Hawaii, sadly, almost all of these are going to be scams. Basically, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And this is something that I've gotten a bunch of questions with faculty members asking me to check up on these emails, which is great. So if you ever get unsolicited email and you're interested in the opportunity, then just pass it on to the library and we'll take a look at it for you. And this is an actual email that has been screenshot. And you could see the quality in this email here. Dear author, we are really impressed after reading your research article. Our journal, American-based research with an E, journal with good reputation, etc., etc. Another red flag is broad or bizarre scopes. So this isn't 100%. Public Library of Science has a really broad scope. Science and Nature have broad scopes. But generally, if you have like a newer journal with a very broad scope, this, as you can see, covers quite a lot of specialties and basic sciences. Normally, this is a sign that they're trying to get more money out of authors in a lot of different fields. Another red flag is rapid publication. So here we have the Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical Science and Technology. And here is a screenshot of their publication timeline. Author will receive receive acknowledgement within 12 hours of manuscript submission. Okay. Review process will complete within 1 day after submission. Article will be uploaded in website within 2 days after payment of processing fees. You can't do peer review in 1 day. And once again, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Anything that said, so this isn't a really extreme example, but anything that says peer review is going to be really quick is lying. You all know how long it takes somebody to actually respond to emails and do tasks. If you're wrangling a lot of people, if you're wrangling people that you can't just go up and knock on their door and ask, have you done it yet? It's going to take a long time. So here we have a better example, Pharmacology Research and Perspectives. And you could see, this is a screenshot from the Directory of Open Access Journals, and it lists the time from submission to publication, 20 weeks. So if you check the DOAJ, if you're concerned about really long publication times and you want something reasonably quick, you could just check DOAJ and see what their timeline is, and choose something that's on the shorter side if that's something that's important to you. Another thing to look out for is location mismatch. So this one's a little more specific, but if something's called, for example, the Canadian Journal for Applied Sciences, if your editors are not actually from, if no one seems to actually be from where it says it's from, then that's a red flag. So here we have the editor-in-chief, who is currently in Italy, and another editor who is in Pakistan. And basically just look out to see, this is a good indication that either this isn't actually a Canadian journal, or that that these researchers are not actually on the board or editors of this journal. So again, you could actually go through and just Google editors, see if they've listed, see if they're listed anywhere but the journal website, because there are definitely predatory journals that are known to just scrape authors or editors from different locations without actually having them or informing them that they're now editors of a fake journal. Next thing to look out for is fake indices. So, Journal of Current Research in Science, that looks like a lot of different impact factors and indices for saying that it's good. And here's another PMC article about fake impact factor companies. A universal impact factor does not actually exist. Global impact factor does not actually exist. I have not checked out Index Copernicus. I forget if that actually exists, but I'd be wary about it considering the others. So if you see some sort of impact factor that you have never seen before, you might want to Google it, see if it's real. There are new ones like altmetrics and some of the impact factors that are used in Scopus. Those are lesser known but legit. Others, not so much. All right, bad contact information. Here we have the Biohouse Journal of Diabetes and Metabolism, and you have to submit the manuscript to a Gmail account. Basically, if a journal itself is using an unprofessional email address like Gmail or Hotmail, that's a red flag. They should have their own email address or an @edu with whatever institution they're a part of. Unprofessional website. So I'd like you to just take a look at this and see if you could spot an error or two. If a website looks like nobody has proofread it at all, that's going to be a bad sign. If it has fancy web things that are poorly implemented, or something that looks like the web in the 90s, like a flashing submit here sign. Basically, if it's something where you would go to where if it was on like a university website or a company website, you'd think, I'm not sure I want to shop here, then you probably don't want to submit to that journal. Another thing on a non-professional website, here I have two screenshots from different parts of the same website. Editors and authors who contribute in our journals will transfer copyright of their work to the publisher. Later on, the majority of authors retain copyright for their articles. So watch out to see if the website actually contradicts itself, especially for something important like how much you're paying or do you have copyright. Speaking of how much you're paying, you really want to look out for hidden fees. So most open access journals do have author fees. That does not make them predatory. However, here we have the SSP Journal of AIDS and HIV Research. And there's a question, how much will an author be charged for an article to be published? The charge may vary according to the journal. For more details, visit instructions for the authors on the journal page. Here I have a screenshot of the lack of information on the instructions for the authors on that journal page. It does not say anywhere on the page how much you're going to be paying. So don't publish anywhere where they're going to surprise you with how much you're actually paying. Here is another journal, International Journal of MCH and AIDS. And here they tell you exactly how much you're going to be paying, which is very useful. Paper quality. An easy thing you could do is go to the website and just actually look at a few of the articles published and see, are these quality articles? Are these something I would cite or be proud of being published beside? So here we have in the Farmer Research Library. This is a screenshot of an entire review article. That long. And the rest of the column over here. So this is, again, an extreme example. But if you see papers that are incomprehensible, are poorly researched, that's a good sign that peer review isn't doing its job or may not actually exist, and you don't want to be published here. So here for a better paper quality, American Journal of Animal and Veterinary Sciences, we have a screenshot of an abstract that's as long as that entire article. And when in doubt, ask the library. We are always here to help you guys, and this is just another one of the many things that you have to keep track of when you're publishing a paper. So we are here to help you, and that's specifically my job as a scholarly communication and research librarian. I'm here to help you figure out where to publish or help work out, are these journals you're interested in good? How do I keep my author rights? So anything that you have a question about, please feel free to email me, jacquelinewee@pcom.edu. You could also give me a call or just stop by. Or you could email library@pcom.edu or galibrary@pcom.edu down in Georgia. And I think South Georgia will also have its own email. Figure out what's going on down there. Also, we have a LibGuide at libguides.pcom.edu/research. And this has links to a lot of the resources I talked about here. And also more information on the digital commons, which is really good if you want to have your research be open access, but without publishing in an open access journal. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Jackie, thank you for adding to my existing paranoia that everything we read in the media is incorrect. I do have a question for you about a recent journal I submitted to the Journal of Medical Education Curricular Development. It's a journal I had not used before. I assumed it was in PubMed, that I was fine. It's sponsored by Sage, so I'm assuming that's okay too. But anyway, we can talk offline about that. But
yes. So usually when it's sponsored by like a known publisher, you're good. Mm-hmm. And what you would want to check out then is the impact factor and other metrics that say, is this basically up to my standards? There was a few years ago, I think Elsevier had published some predatory journals. So there's always an exception, but yeah, generally you'll be okay with known publishers.
My question though is there something out there like a Consumer Reports or CNET or Angie's List that you can search this stuff and they'll tell you, yeah, that's okay?
So that's a very good question. There used to be a website known as Beall's List, and that was just a collected list of predatory journals and predatory publishers. Okay. However, that was taken offline. There's multiple conspiracy theories about why. The most likely seems to be that Professor Beall's University did not want to deal with any possible legal issues of hosting this. So right now there are several hosts for the archived version of Beall's Lists. And if you Google for whatever journal or publisher Beall's List, you'll probably be able to find the archived version of that. However, there is no real one-stop shop. And anything new popping up after Beal's list was disbanded will not be on there.
And that was a good resource.
It was. Yeah, it was, it could be a little quick on the trigger finger. It was, Beal was not very interested in open access. So please don't shut down in 1 minute, thank you. So Beal was pretty anti-open access in general, and had some accusations of being too hard on, especially foreign journals. So probably your best bet would be Directory of Open Access Journals. If it's a good one, it will generally be in there. Again, there are some iffy ones that do get in there because it's run by volunteers. Also, just see if it's on PubMed. See if it's on Scopus. It's, again, never going to be 100%, but the stuff in there is generally going to be vetted and going to be good. All right, any other questions? Yeah, the first time I gave this talk, I think it was about a week before Beal's list was shut down, and I had a big section on it and everything. So that was great. Cool. All right, so yeah, if you're ever in doubt, ask us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.